All right, I'll call the meeting to order. If everybody could stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Director Krotzer is running a few minutes behind, so she will be here momentarily. And Director Shepherd Bull is excused from this meeting. All right, so. All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Approve the agenda as written.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, the agenda is approved as written. So on to public comments on the agenda. So we have some students here to talk about the newspaper club. If you guys want to come up.
Thank you. We would like to start this off by thanking everyone who supported us so far and giving this opportunity to speak today. It means a lot, and for the chance to be able to speak about this newspaper club so many people have worked so hard to flesh out. I'm Annie, the editor of the paper, and this is Patrick, the co-editor, and this is Josie, our manager, and our advisor is Miss Thornton. We're here today to explain to you a little about our club's mission and intentions in order to convince the board to approve our club. The club's invention from the start was to keep our fellow students in the school district informed. The plan to center our paper around school sports and club news, school events and news, and relevant community events.
Also with the intention to include relevant information for all kids in the district, including North Mason High School, Hawkins, James Taylor, West Sound Tech, and even OC, as needed. We were also given the idea to turn this into a potential platform to lift up other students and spotlight talents and hard work from our community. That would have also gone unnoticed rather than use the responsibility of the newspaper as a gossip panel. In the end, we came up with the idea of submissions as a way for students to submit their work of art and writing to get some appreciation for their talent for it. Plus, who wouldn't love to say they had their hard work published in a paper? As for funding, we would like to give ads to companies that support the high school and sponsor sports and things of that nature, as well as do takeovers as the band does with Casey's Bar and Grill and McDonald's.
Our mission from the start was clear as well. I think we can all agree that there's a bit of a mental health crisis in this country, even more so among teens, which isn't helped by the fact that there's fewer teen-friendly places and events available anymore, and worsened by the lack of advertising and accessibility. Sure, there's posters on the walls and all throughout town, but who has time to read that in a busy hall? There's other news outlets, but they always have pretty much the same issue. They're online, making them not as memorable or inaccessible to people. Not to mention they lack diverse reporting, only providing news on sports and such. Our paper will be a physical one, left in central spots for free, and we'd report on anything from school and community events to the lunches, encouraging kids to stay informed and engage in their environment and community.
A club centered around writing would also give kids with an interest in literature and writing a chance to use their skills. And in a country with a declining literacy rate, we believe we should be taking every possible chance to encourage kids with a passion for writing. We'd also have flexible positions for kids interested in photography, giving kids interested in that medium to show off their work taken at school events and such. And of course, we'd be offering kids the chance to step into roles of leadership and in the process of teaching people integrity, responsibility, and professionalism. We're not gonna stand up here and pretend we've got everything completely sorted out, or that we'd be a perfect club or completely change North Mason. But we can promise we have every intention to make this work and make sure this club lives up to its potential. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you.
Okay. Nicole? Okay. So, hey, thank you guys for coming up here. It's awesome. I'm hear you guys talk up here. I think it's a great idea. Thanks for all the hard work you guys are putting in. Sounds wonderful. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for hearing us out.
Thank
job.
you.
All right. Student board comments, and Sophie is not here tonight. So we will move on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I move we approve the consent agenda as written.
All right, any discussion?
No.
Anything, Christine, you want to highlight within the consent agenda?
Let's see. Were you expecting to?
Well, in addition to the newspaper club, there also is a club for, that is a new club for future health, oh my gosh, I'm gonna.
Health professionals.
There we go, future health professionals, similar to, you know, DECA or FFA. This is one that is focused on students who are interested in health professionals, so it's great to see two student created clubs coming forward.
Very good.
And I can talk now about student board members, or I can talk about it later on your preference.
I think, is that
I can do that during the
here?
superintendent update.
Yeah, let's do that during the superintendent
Okay.
update.
Sounds great.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as written, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved, and so are that newspaper club, so thank you guys. All right, moving on, North Mason High School presentation with dual credit.
Good evening, Board. At our retreat in August, we were asked to sign up, each school to sign up for a board meeting and have some folks come from our school and talk about something cool that's going on. So I have some amazing folks with me that are going to talk about college and the high school classes. We started that this year. I have a vision of taking this further, 2, 3, 4-year goal of eventually kids staying on our campus and earning an AA degree is my goal. I think we've got a good start going, so I have Deb Swayzer, Diana Olson, and Andrew Wing that are going to talk about how it's going.
Hi, I'll start. Good evening. So we have lots of dual credit opportunities at North Mason High School right now. Running Start is at Olympic College for the most part, TCC for a few. We have 72 current North Mason students enrolled in Running Start. Career Technical Education, we offer 48 dual credit, that's high school credit and college credit, articulated through OC, through our Career Technical Education classes at North Mason. And I'm just like gonna toot a little horn here of some really cool data that we increased our registration of students completing dual credit. That means they're earning high school credit and college credit at the same time from 124 in 23-24 to 518 last year. So we're just gonna watch that trend keep moving up. And then advanced placement, we have 77 students currently enrolled in AP US, AP World, and our AP Lit classes. Again, if they score 3 or higher, they can earn college credit, so dual credit. The exciting one that we're talking about tonight is college and the high school through Central Washington University. We added 25 college credits at the high school through pre-calculus and Spanish. So that's just like a little overview of dual credit. I don't even remember what's on the next slide. If it's not written down, we don't remember. So why college and the high school? Well, it offers more pathways to post-secondary. There's a huge barrier of transportation in our community. I don't know if you guys know this. I think a student at the beginning of the school year wrote you a letter. I don't know if you all saw it or if I'm not sure who saw it, but for West Sound Tech. Anyways, there's a huge transportation barrier. It costs a lot. Anyways, so whatever we can retain in our building, the students that we can keep in our building for leadership purposes, for culture, for climate, and for pathways to post-secondary. It's an equitable program. All students earn college credit that pass the class. 80%, what?
No high stakes.
No testing. It is free of charge. The state changed that a few years ago. So I have a data blip on here that says 80% of our students reported that they see themselves going to college, post-secondary 2-year, or a community technical college and or a 4-year university. And that was through a survey that was given last year that, 367 students were surveyed, and that was the data in that. So also our data from 2023, which is the most recent for post-secondary, is 55% of our graduating seniors in 2023 went on to a 2-year community tech or a 4-year university. So just increasing the pathways and opportunities.
I'm just gonna keep adding to all the
Please do.
positives. Ms. Swayze worked really hard to make sure that our campus became an AccuPlacer testing site, which was awesome. All of our college and the high school math students had to qualify for the course. They had to score a certain, there were several tests, but they had to score a certain score on the test to be able to take the class. And so by becoming a test site, we open up the AccuPlacer to all other students outside of college and the high school as well, so that's a huge plus. Also, we mentioned earlier that this is a push for us to keep kids on campus. This is my 10th year in the district, and traditionally the message has been if you would like to seek higher, if you're academically high achieving, you have to go somewhere else to get served, and that obviously is a huge deficit for everybody else on campus. We lose lots of leadership, as Ms. Swayze said. My own daughter is a Running Start student full-time this year as a junior. She is doing her best to stay plugged into high school because she's an athlete, she's a leader. She has an ASB position, so she does her best to stay plugged in, but she too feels left out. So this is a huge push for us to keep all those kids on campus, but still allow them to achieve that post, high school academics that they qualify to achieve.
I'm just gonna highlight the last bullet. The counseling team at North Mason High School has been teaching all students about a lot of things, but habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectation is what makes us us, right? And so the last bullet just is building expectation of the future that we believe is possible for ourselves. And so we just are building programs to do that for our 9 through 12 students.
And we think that college and the high school is a great push to help our overall climate and culture go towards high achieving academics for all students.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the first year? This is the first year.
Oh, it is the first year.
AccuPlacer was a learning curve.
But we learned.
We did learn.
Curves.
We're better for
So
it.
great.
Well, and the other learning curve that we had was when I showed up to the training, we were assuming that the Spanish classes were all at the advanced level. And when I got to the training, I discovered that no, it's actually for beginners and up to a more advanced level. And so we totally had to pivot, and with a whole lot of hard work through the counseling department and things, we've been able to give access to even our beginners. The Spanish 1 has now become 151, and the Spanish 2 has now become 152, and if they move on to the 153 at the end of that sequence, which can be completed now in 2 full academic years, they'll have 15 college credit hours.
Mm-hmm. And this year, we just started pre-calc, and then we have some underclassmen with the hopes of another teacher teaching the college and the high school calculus next year, and she went to the training with us this past summer, so she's all ready to go. So our students that are in pre-calc this year will just roll into calculus next year, and by the time they're done, I don't remember, I think it was 35 credits just between math and Spanish that they'll be able to get by the end of Mr. Wings and the math sequence. So, and those are credits through Central. I know part of the Running Start issue is that if they don't complete their full associate's degree, some of those credits don't transfer. And then with AP, some of those, the way that the credits are accrued are, it's like determined by college per year, so there's like a lot of change in that. This is like a sure guaranteed 5 credits per course, as long as they meet the academic requirement of the grade, which is different between the courses. There is no high stakes test that they have to pass. There is a final that they take, but it's just part of their overall grade. So the credits are more accessible and will be transferable no matter where they go because they're from a 4-year university.
The ultimate goal is to point everybody that has that desire towards college.
And make it accessible to everybody that would
Absolutely.
like to pursue it.
So we currently have 98 students enrolled. We're excited to see what the year holds, and what data looks like at the end of the year. Can I say that? I don't know. Seems boring, but it's kind of exciting. And Central's been great, and the students get some perks if they decide to go to Central. I mean, we're not super biased towards that or anything, but there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of support for them there. So that is all. It feels weird standing
Yeah, I
like a
know.
microphone. Anyways, I don't know if you guys have questions or
How many teachers do we have for AP in college and the high school?
there are right now, there's one, well, actually, there's 2 English teachers, AP language teachers, I believe, and 2 sections, I believe. And 2 sections, one of AP US and AP World taught by the same teacher. So 3 AP teachers and then,
We don't currently
College and high
offer,
school.
we don't currently have any AP math classes. That was part of what we lost last year. So we do have we have one math teacher qualified to teach AP, but we aren't currently offering an AP course in math.
Okay. And that kind of leads into my next question. I feel like the reason some students have chosen Running Start is because of the vast offerings that OC has. We are such a small district that a lot of times it's like catch-22 where we have to have enough students to offer a class, but we have to have the teacher certified, endorsed, all of that in order to do that. And so moving forward, what is going to be the process to determine which AP and college and the high school courses we're going to offer to our kids?
I think that is the vision of our leaders. And I mean, to be transparent, I hope that we get English 101 next year. That's a common course that transfers to any college. And every Running Start student has to take English 101. And not to say that, I mean, Running Start's amazing. And this isn't a like, this is better, this is worse, not at all. It is really opening up so you don't feel like you only have this one opportunity. Like there should be vast opportunities, especially in a small community where the opportunity gap is gonna be way bigger than if I live on I-5 in Kent and I have access to all these things and a bus line that goes to, 4 different cities. It's not like that out here. And so what we bring to our district, what we provide for our students is really the game changer.
But there are certain qualifications that the teacher has to have.
Yes.
Right.
In order to be able to offer a college and a high school class.
Yes.
And it is different than AP. So like to be qualified to teach AP, you have to be trained through AP, you have to be certified with their certificate. Central, there are other schools that do college and the high school as well. We chose to pursue Central because many of our teachers are alumni from Central, so that grandfathers you in. But you have to have, like for me, I had to have a pure math degree. I'm 5 credits off of a pure math degree. I have a teaching secondary math degree. But because I'm nationally board certified, my qualifications were trumped. I don't know in every department, but I do know that as the math department head, I've talked with other department heads, and there is interest and really like a lot of excitement in every department to go this way because of what Ms. Swayzer said. I'm a little biased because I have a daughter that had, that I wanted to keep on campus, but we're not necessarily poo-pooing Running Start. We just want this opportunity for students who want to stay, don't want to travel, want to stay in high school to also get the same opportunity that students who are going to Running Start also have.
I will also just say, like, I have some AP data, and not to like, I mean, I will be comparing data after this year, but in AP US History last year, there were 51 students, and 59% of them scored a 3 or higher. So only 59% are potentially getting college credit with their high school credit.
And not to mention how that affects the mental health of these students who are almost always carrying really heavy loads academically, socially, sports-wise, physically, you know. So this particular population of students, they're already really stressed and pulled. So if they could stay on campus and still have the same access, that would be, we're hoping that would be a positive impact on mental health of our kids.
And the beautiful thing about math is a lot of Running Start students do stay with us for math, for various reasons. And it's actually pretty wise, unless you are like, math, which some people are, and then get them. But anyway, so beautiful. Did we talk for 5 minutes?
Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I love the idea of having some of those students on campus more often, and not only for their leadership, but for what their experiences and the culture that they bring. So, yeah, it's exciting to
great.
see it grow and continue to grow.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the board development and linkage with the superintendent update first.
Okay, great. So I would like to just kind of start by introducing one of our new student board members. So if I could have Cameron Pike come on forward. One of the things that I noticed when I was new is we don't have a really well-defined policy and procedure around how our student board members are selected. And so I had the opportunity to interview our applicants, but also we'll be talking to the board about developing a policy that defines better how one goes about applying for it. But this is Cameron. She is a junior. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself? We're super excited to have you join us. And hopefully, if her schedule allows, she'll be able to join us at the conference as well. So.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm 16. I go to TCC. I play soccer for the high school and for Washington Premier. I'm really passionate about my education, and I just think that this is a great opportunity for me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, and you're ASB
Oh, I'm class president.
class president and ambassador for the freshmen? Or is that part of class president?
No, I'm junior class president.
Junior class president.
In our next meeting, we'll be introducing the freshman ambassadors, so I don't know who they are.
Okay, you don't know, okay. I just remember meeting a bunch of you right on that first day,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was great. Yeah. So, yeah, we look forward to welcoming Cameron as well as Sophia, and our other board member is Hayden Thomas, who we will swear them in at our next meeting. I shared with them a copy of the student board rep handbook that I was able to find that WASDA has put forward. And we're gonna get together and meet and kind of walk through that and talk about how we can best make sure that our student board reps are representing not just the high school, but also West Sound Tech and James Taylor, so that we can hear student opinions from all parts of our campus. So, welcome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Welcome.
You went to the Christ Lutheran Childcare years ago?
Yeah.
Did the same?
That is-
I'm just,
You're the
I have some tears coming up in my throat here because you and my son were in the same baby room, and I'm watching you like a young woman standing here.
You're the second person to ask me that in like 2 days if I went to that.
Yeah, Mason's my son, so yeah.
Don't worry about it. My daughter was there too.
It's really neat to see, and I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yep. And then I'm going to pass out on WASDA. I was able to find a draft policy. As a policy governance district, we don't have the 1,000 policies, but I think that there are several that I'd like to bring forward for the board to consider, including students on governing boards. You don't need to take any action on this. I just wanted to share this as a possible draft, and then we can talk about it at a further meeting, whether this makes good sense or if there needs to be some tweaks to it. to meet our needs.
Yeah, I think-
This is considered a discretionary policy from WASDA. The other thing I wanted to give an update on was about every other week I go through my entry plan and take a look at the proposed action steps I had back from January when you all interviewed me for this current position. And I counted it again this weekend, and there's 58 action items on there. And as I've said to many of the staff when I've gone to their staff meetings this month, is maybe I was a little overly ambitious in all 58 of those items. I kind of forgot to take into account the fact that when I was a superintendent in my prior district, I had been the assistant superintendent for 3 years prior to that, and so I already knew everybody. I knew what they taught, where they worked, who did what job. And so it's taking me a little bit longer than I would like to get to know all the teachers and what their positions are, as well as all of our classified and support staff. But I continue to work hard to be in the buildings and get to know those staff members. So of those 58 items, 21 are complete and 22 are in progress. And there are a couple that I've had to cross off because they just actually were not applicable once I was in the North Mason School District. But just kind of also along those lines, as I've gone out and talked with staff and been out in the community, there are a couple of themes that have come through loud and strong. One is in kind of the bucket of what I would call curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And the overall sense is that while the community loves our teachers and our buildings, there is definitely an expectation that they would like to see improvements around our test scores as a district. And so I will be bringing forth to our next meeting some draft goals that are around the superintendent standards from the state as well. The first one will be around curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And the second one will be around Standard 6, which is meaningful engagement with families and communities. The other bucket that I would consider a lot of the comments in are around like wanting increased transparency between the district, increased communication. So in addition to the Facilities Advisory Committee that currently exists, we will be starting a Finance Advisory Committee as well as creating an opportunity for some ambassadors, which will have a monthly meeting. People in the community, whether they have students or not in the district, will be able to apply for that. And then as I've gone out talking to the chamber and the Rotary and different things, I've talked to them about the fact that I'll be doing Soup with the Soup, which about every other month invite whoever who would like to come in. The first month will be just an opportunity to get to know me as the superintendent, and then after that first one we'll have themes so that they can kind of know that they'll hear a little bit about whatever the topic is, and then have an opportunity to engage and ask questions. So, and I will probably alternate that every other month, soup one month and then coffee the next month, to try to capture the availability of more community members. So really that is my update for the month. There's lots of great things happening in all the schools, and you're going to get to hear updates from quite a lot of them here in just a bit. But do you have any questions on anything I've shared so far?
I don't have questions. I'm just excited. I'm hearing exactly what's aligning with what our community is saying too. So I'm excited.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And I do think there's a correlation between those test scores and that family involvement.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're separate, I do think that there's a correlation there that as we foster that will help also.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Agreed. All right.
Lots of teaching and learning.
Yeah. Teaching district goals, so
Sorry, I missed that.
who's starting off? You starting off here, Kyle?
All right, good evening, board members. Kyle Ellis, Director of Curriculum and Instructional Practices. We started off this year doing our attendance presentation. You'll see a series of these presentations throughout the year. A lot of this, from my end, is a continuation of how we ended last school year in June, when I was able to present a lot of our data updates for the whole entire district. But today we get to invite our principals up here to discuss their building data as well. So We always kick it off with our district vision. That's those 100% goals. Everybody here has seen these, and this is so we're not changing those for what our vision is for our district with 100%, starting with 100% of our third grade students reading at grade level, finishing up with 100% of our students who graduate with 85% on time. This slide that we have now is our NMSD graduation rate trends. You can kind of see we finished last year at 78%, still with our goal. So this is 4-year on-time graduation. We still have our 85% on-time goal. The state data isn't imported yet, but I can kind of predict it'll be between 81 and 84 based upon the trends from the state the last 6 years, 7 years. What we included this time, which we have not in our previous presentations, is our dropout rate. And so this gives a nice little picture of our trends over the last 5 school years. The kind of bluish is North Mason, and that fuchsia is Washington State. And you can kind of see, starting 21, 22, we were right around 14%. We've seen some small gains, and we're sitting around 12% dropout rate for the 24-25 school year. So this goes with what Dr. Michael was talking about with some of our, what we want to be able to talk about with our state testing. We shared this several times last year. There's some new interpretation when it comes to the Smarter Balanced Assessment. This just gives a really nice description. And the state started this year on the OSPI report card showing more of that level 2 to level 4 kind of range when you pull up the pages. But there is some new language. Level 1 and 2 back in the day was considered failing the assessment. That's how some of us took it. And then 3 and 4, you pass the assessment. That's really not the interpretation that we want to continue to go with, or really that makes a whole lot of sense. Level 3 and 4 consistently demonstrates proficient or advanced grade level knowledge, where level 2 is foundational grade level knowledge. So we shared this actually in June as well. This is kind of that state and North Mason side by side of where all of our 3rd through 8th and 10th graders scored on the Smarter Balanced Assessment. You can kind of see right there, you know, we do have a gap that we've been working on, especially in that percent level 1, and we'll be able to kind of go and show building by building what's happening to support some of those growth. So show this as well in June, but this is the finalized data that was released on the OSPI report card. One thing that we've been really working hard towards is kind of that starting point of 3rd grade. That's the first time students ever take a Smarter Balanced Assessment, and having a large gap that we've seen over years between 3rd grade at the state level and then North Mason School District, it's really hard to build up a 20% kind of deficit when we see that. So we really want to have a good eye on those K-1-2 students and trying to do the best we can to close that gap going into 3rd grade. So that kind of leads into what our measures are throughout the year. Smarter Balance only happens in May. We get the results early June usually is when we can kind of say what we're going to be at, but we have some K-8 diagnostic and screening assessments that we do 3 times a year. We introduced iReady math diagnostic last year, and you can kind of see, I think this is a really nice picture from fall last year to fall this year with some of our Tier 1 growth. You can see there's a 5% gain of students in Tier 1 with this math diagnostic, and then you can see that at risk for Tier 3 decreased by about 2% from last year. To kind of put like numbers for each of these, Tier 3 last year was 307 students, and Tier 3 this year is 292 students, K-8. Tier 2, 321, and for last year. For this year, 278, and then students in Tier 1 was 708 K-8 students last year, and we have 806 that go into that green piece for this school year. So that's pretty outstanding gains just in 1 year looking at this beginning of year view for the iReady math diagnostic. One that everybody up here is probably a little bit more familiar with We've done the presentation on this for many years now, is our FastBridge A rating screener. Also done 3 times a year. This view is our benchmarks view, and you can see some pretty significant gains, especially from the high risk category. We had 37% of our students last year in high risk, and that shifted to 30% of our students for this school year. And then you can look down low risk, 23 last year to 25%, and then college pathway 17% last year to 20% this year. To put some numbers with this, 470 high risk students last year and 408 high risk students this year. 303 some risk last year, 336 this year. 291 low risk students last year and 335 low risk students this year. 217 college pathway last year and 262 college pathway students this year. So some really significant gains we're seeing. That 5% does mean a lot to us that are above that benchmark line. So we set out to write some district assessment goals. Looking at where we were in June, what we've come up with as a district was a 5% cohort achievement gain on both the math and ELA smarter balanced assessments. So really looking at our 3rd grade students going to 4th, 4th going to 5th, 5th to 6th, and so on. Even high school is looking at the 8th grade students from 2 years ago, where they scored and made goals looking at that kind of cohort achievement. So that's our whole overall focus when it comes to smarter balance. Our buildings, especially at the K-8 level, will look more at those district assessments. So last year, we had 30% of our students achieve stretch growth on the Math iReady diagnostic, which was a really phenomenal number according to iReady when we met with them. We set a big goal of 40% of our students will achieve stretch growth this year on the Math diagnostic. Last year, 35% of our students reached aggressive growth on the FastBridge A reading assessment, and for this year, we said 45% of our students will achieve aggressive growth on the A reading assessment. So we do have our subgroup goals as a district. We didn't have our buildings put them into their presentation, but they are kind of embedded in those CSIPs that we attached as well. They're going to be more focused on the whole school pieces right here. And since we do have 2 different diagnostic screener, K-8, it's made it a little wonky to find, to create growth goals using some of our subgroups, but we were able to find that a 15% achievement increase for MLL students and special education students in math made sense with what we saw at the end of last year. It was 7% for special ed and 9% for MLL, so 15% achievement increase would see some of that gap closing growth. And then in reading, we put 50% down for each subgroup. We had 42% for MLL and 38% for special ed last school year. So 50% seemed like a really good number to try to hit to see some of that gap closing growth. So what we're going to have today is all of our buildings are going to come and share a little bit about their particular building. They have some data to present, and they're also going to describe some of their goals and their action steps for this school year around academics. And first, we'll have Sand Hill.
So we always come up and we present, and sometimes we look at the data, some of this data, and it's like, oh, we just want it to get better and better and better. And I think that when we go through this, what I want you to know is we measure a lot of data, but there's also some things that aren't measured that I want to make sure you guys know are happening. We're working, and we'll go through that in our commitments, but I'm really, really, really proud of the Sand Hill staff and the growth that was made last year and the growth in just teachers believing that every kid can learn. So we'll go through all this and then we'll talk about our commitments. Those are real nice pictures. Yeah, it's lovely. The azaleas look beautiful in bloom.
Well watered.
What's that?
Well watered.
Well, that's what it looks like when they're well watered. Mm-hmm. It's real pretty. Okay, here they are. So here's some here's some longitudinal data around SBA. And this is where we kind of get up here and think, when is something going to happen that's going to make a difference? And I believe that it's going to happen. We're seeing steps in our growth data that is going to, I think, really start to show in this SBA data. There is some positive things in this. Looking at our third grade specifically, they really made a big jump from years past 20% to now 34% in that ELA, and math 19% to 31%. That's what I hope to see in all grade levels here this year, is that big jump. Really proud of that third grade team and the third grade students for working so hard. This is another breakdown of the SBA scores, third through fifth, and a comparison for levels 3 and 4. Again, our hope is that we reduce specifically that level 1, that we have to get something going there. We've got to see a change. We cannot have 46% of our kids at a level 1 in math. This is where we get to say that there is hope and hard work is paying off. You can see last year at the beginning of the year in the fall, we took the iReady math diagnostic for the first time at Sand Hill, and you can see the comparison in the jump in kids at that tier 1 level that were successful this fall and compared to last fall. The at-risk is shrinking. I wish it would have shrunk a little bit more, but I do think that we are on the right trajectory, and I think that everything that you're going to see from this point on, you're going to see that trajectory of growth, which is what we really want to see. We believe at Sand Hill that growth closes gaps. This is one we're really proud of as well. I really want to focus on the high risk. It's that bright pink at the bottom. You can see that in the fall of 24, we had 43% of our students there. We reduced it by 10% this year, going into this school year. And I just have so much belief because of just the conversations I'm having with teachers, the conversations we had with students. Students were celebrated for making aggressive growth last year, and they are all in. And I have lots of hope. It's very exciting. So at Sand Hill, our reading goal is we had a lot of conversation in our instructional leadership teams in August in our time together. And my question was just posed to them, do we change what we're doing? And we looked at data, we talked through everything, and every single one of them said, don't change something that's working, because they knew it worked. So we kept our same goals. And that is in reading that with partnership with all stakeholders, that 100% of our students will at least make a year's growth and or aggressive growth in reading. Same for math. In math, we use the language stretch growth, not aggressive growth. But our hope is that that every student makes a year's growth. We owe that to them. But those kids that have been identified at some risk factor need to make aggressive growth to close those gaps. So we're super focused on that this year, again. And this is where I think that you can read this and talk the talk, but it's walking the walk, and we're seeing the walking happen. We're committed to identifying priority standards. We've done that work. We worked on that for 2 or 3 years. You can go and ask a teacher. I moved them all over the place. I got teachers that were teaching first grade for 18 years, now teaching 4th grade. But you can go and say, what's your priority standard and what are you focused on? And they can answer it. Not only can they answer it, but the next level is that I'm using this common formative assessment to know if this week my kids made growth in that standard or not. And then how are they adjusting their instruction to make sure those kids don't fall through the gap on that standard. So that is the work that's going to help make those scores get better, and I see it and I hear it, and it's fantastic. We committed also to using GLAD strategies. You can walk into any of our classrooms, and I marked it in all my stuff so far this year. Every single room has GLAD strategies going on. Even our new teachers are in it. I love it. We are still committed to our UDL strategies that we've been focusing on. These academic commitments also, the team chose to keep them. It's working, we're doing it. Our Wednesdays are focused strictly on students looking at data with their teachers, conferencing, setting goals, and progress monitoring, and using those formative assessments. So our master schedule even reflects the commitments around setting goals, giving meaningful feedback, and making it sure it's super purposeful and that kids know where they're at. We use all our common assessments. We've committed to that. We're working really hard this year on building those formative assessments that line with those priority standards. I want to give huge props to Kyle for working on our standards-based report card. It now reflects those priority standards that we're working on. So you could walk into a fourth grade classroom and you could say, how many priority standards do you have in ELA? They could say 6, they may say 8, we know that more than 8. These are them, and then we're working on what formative assessments are we giving. Not summative assessments right before a report card goes out to see where kids are at on those, in those standards, but those summative assessments that we give all the time, or excuse me, formative, so we know where kids are at. And go ahead.
I was going to say, to support this work, BILT has come to decided that we are focusing on strengthening our PLCs and our collaborative teams, so to really set that foundation. So all this work is being supported by school-wide professional development that's being led by grade level teams on how do we get better at collaborating and being more meaningful.
Yep, that's the last dot, and we're super proud of them. They have, our instructional leaders have really taken a leadership role and taken responsibility for our school data, and I think I think that's one of the best parts of our jobs. We love seeing kids grow, but seeing adults grow and take ownership and believe that all kids can learn. Some of the conversations we've had in our instructional leadership team meetings this year have been super powerful. So I have a feeling that we're going to be able to stand up here this time next year and have better results for you, specifically in the SBA. That's my commitment to you.
Very good.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Now we have Belfair Elementary.
Well, Sand Hill summed it up really nice, but I'm Pam Plessman, Principal, Belfair Elementary School.
Christy Dalby, Assistant Principal.
So our longitudinal SBA data, so we can look at it and then look at where we came out. Our big celebration came out with our ELA this year. We were 4% higher than the previous year, and our ELA math stayed the same. So we had some in-depth conversations with staff and the teachers, just why the wonderings, and we created some really great questions and some goals around why did we level. One of those was the new curriculum that came out, was teachers were starting to use that and get familiar with it. So that one was where we kind of really honed in, what can we do then, if that's the wondering, maybe that's our why, to strengthen that within our building. So this year we see teachers really using the iReady curriculum with Fidelity, and we see some really good learning. You can go by classrooms, you can see kids using the MyPath, you can see teachers using their PowerPoint lessons. So I'm anticipating that we see some more growth in that happening so that we can have a more solid plan and steps in place to see that growth start to happen. So we had some celebrations with our math and our iReady fall diagnostics. Some of the big celebrations that I really feel is we were only anticipated and slated to have about 400 students this year, and we ended up, I think we have over 450 students. So a lot of students coming into our school, and we still saw this kind of tier 1 growth this year. And some students had used iReady in other districts, so that's also good to know that we're using a curriculum that other districts are also using, so that when kids come, they're familiar and we don't have lag time in them developing the skills and how to use this curriculum and the supports it has in place. That was really nice to see. Our tier 2 went down. I wish I had done the numbers that Kyle did of students to percentages. I loved when he said that, so I will go back and do that work just for my own knowledge. And then our app this year in our low risk, and so that was a good thing too, and our some risk actually went up based upon so I'm anticipating that we took some of those high risk and we came to some risk. So we're just making some incremental. Okay, our goals. So trying to keep it in a really smart and aligned point of view. So if in 24-25, 70% of all students reach typical or aggressive growth on the FastBridge A reading assessment, and for the school year, 80% of all the students will reach typical or aggressive growth on the FastBridge A reading assessment. So we're going to go up 10%. I want to see, because I feel like I can have strong strength in going up an incremental amount. I could say 100%, but I don't think that's realistic. Could it happen? Absolutely. But I want to focus in on where I know and where I can push us to grow on the iReady math diagnostic. That's a high, I believe, is due to we have the MyPath in place that's filling in gaps for students in their math knowledge right now between the two schools is the common formative assessments, and how we're using it to track formative assessments teachers are using along the way. And I know students to know and be able to do. So really guiding that work to the priority state. Learn it, what's going to be our measuring ticket right there, and how will we respond when some students, I forgot one of them there, what will we do when they do not learn it? What will we do when they do learn it? Teachers will participate in learning walks at least 2 times per year to facilitate reflection and collaboration. Other teachers teach. So we already are working right now to get a sub to come in for 1 year. To watch other colleagues teach. So they can say, I want to learn from so-and-so. Looking at each other between the teachers as professionals and best practices and what's happening in your room that I can bring into my room also. And I think yeah? Is that it? Okay, any questions?
Thank you. Now we have Hawkins.
Go ahead for the next one. So the one thing I'd like to point out in the data here is if you look at what we want to see, irregardless, we're still below the state standards or the state norms, and so we're working to close that gap. This is just another breakdown of the current last year's scores and where they were for each grade level, both in ELA and math. And then just like the elementary schools, when we look at our iReady diagnostic data, we are also seeing that our fall this year is showing more success with our students than last fall. From 41% in our tier 1 raising to 46% at the fall of this year. So that gives us hope of continuing to work with our growth for this year to see them improve. And then similar in the FastBridge for the reading data, we again are seeing a drop in the number of the percentage that are considered high risk there at 31% last year in the fall to 28% this year in the fall. Our goal, again, is coming off of the goal of wanting to see 5% increase in our ELA scores for both math and reading, and showing our cohort growth. So we want to continue seeing that cohort growth in ELA, and we want to start seeing that cohort growth in the math as well. For the reading, we're looking at last year's aggressive growth was 56% in the FastBridge assessment, and we want to see 66% of our students showing aggressive growth, which would be really great for us to see improvement. In our math goal, last year we were seeing 30% of our students meeting our stretch goals for the iReady, and we want to see that go up to 40% for our students this year. So we made a lot of adjustments and plans for going into this year to see some of these academic improvements. And one of them is a pretty significant one in which we changed our grading practices. We've been using standards-based grading for quite a while in order to show student success in relation to those identified standards. We haven't stopped doing that, but what we did add was add a letter grade component to the overall class grades that allows for improved communication with parents and students in order to address where students were not being successful. In conjunction with that, we added weekly reports and communications to parents about students that are failing in their core classes. And we've been seeing, since doing that from the beginning of the school year, some high successes of reduction in number of Fs in our classes. The other thing that we wanted to do was really focus on improvement of our students and see higher levels of growth. And so we are taking our advisory class that happens 4 days a week, and we're taking 2 days of those and creating supports for math and reading. And these will be going in 6-week cycles, focusing heavily on our 6th and 7th graders. Our current cycle that we started in September is coming to an end this week with our 6th graders in math. And so we hope to see by the end of the week how far they were able to grow in the first module that they did in math over what they would have done if other students did if they didn't have that intervention. Next week we'll be starting with our 7th graders in that math, and we're going to be working with our 6th graders in ELA interventions. And then the big focus for instruction with our teachers has been all around using AVID Wicker strategies. Organization with our students is important. We've been doing binder and planner use for a while, but this year we really wanted to emphasize the use of focused notes for learning. And then we are really focusing heavily with teachers around getting them to understand the idea of rigorous instructions. That rigor is not just something that's hard for the kids, it is actually challenging for them to think at their grade level, letting them have structured supports to be able to reach high levels of thinking at that grade level. And that is what we're focusing on.
Hello. Here to talk about North Mason High School. This slide talks about our graduation rates. We've been making some progress here. You can see 84.3. We're above the state right now. Proud of that. This is 9th grade on track rate. The way OSPI pulls 9th grade on track is if they fail a class, one class, you're off track. And it doesn't give a 100% accurate picture of our school due to the system we're on the trimesters. If you look over on the far right, 64% of our kids were on track. So a little bit higher than what the state reported. This slide shows how many credits a student can earn. You can earn 7.5 credits throughout the year as a freshman. And if you're 4.5, you're considered credit deficient. We sent out credit deficient letters 2 weeks ago, and only 8% of last year's freshmen, so our current sophomores, received a letter. So 92% of the current sophomores are on track.
You're on a roll. Keep her going. I don't want to stop her training, man. Doing great.
This shows our SBA scores. These are our level 3s and 4s. To see here. We saw an increase, an improvement last year from the 23-24 school year. We're proud of that. We think we have some reasons why. We're continuing with our first instruction, our AVID strategies. We'll get to those in a moment. This slide just breaks down the level 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. As Kyle mentioned earlier, the level 2s aren't considered failing in our eyes anymore. We Still have some improvement, but we feel like getting them to the proficient level, we're on the right track. These are our ELA and math goals for this year. Kyle mentioned earlier, we're looking at cohorts of students. So if we look back to our current sophomores, when they were 8th graders, they were at 42% proficient. So we're not looking at a 5% to the 10th grade. We want to do 5% each year. So we did a 10% stretch goal for ELA and math. These are our action steps we're working on. We're continuing our Avid implementation. This year, our building-wide goal is working on focused note-taking. All our PD, our staff meetings are working on focused note-taking. It's a good way to learn. It's not just take notes and you're done. There's a note-taking process that makes kids a better learner, and they'll be able to take that into the workforce or college once they leave North Mason High School. Steve has an example he's going to pass out to you of an example of some Cornell notes. This is one format of focused note-taking. It's not the one every staff member is using, but it just shows you what we're asking students to do. A couple weeks ago at our staff development day, we had professional development, and every staff meeting we have how they're doing note-taking in their department. So they're teaching their colleagues. We're learning from the experts in our
Do those notes and go back the 10, 24/7 on the bottom. That's the big part, because you review the notes after 10 minutes. Then you come back the next day and he does that in math. You know, you bring up your question from the last day to wrap it all together. Just so it's not, I don't know about everybody else in school, it's actually like, this is going to burn it in your brain. You're going to learn it. We're going to keep reviewing it and going through it. And then as they reviewed it, he said, okay, answer it and draw a picture of it, just to try to come up with more kids to lock their brains in. And this was in a social studies class. You can do that in all of them, and that's what's, it's awesome to see. We gave these out to all.
Planning, our counselors have been doing an amazing job doing grade level homerooms. Freshmen will meet in the auditorium and they're going over a lesson, whether it's on positive thinking or a transcript. It's really good. We doubled our FAFSA completion rates from 23-24 last year. We were in our low 20s that year. Last year we were a little over 40%, 42%. Our goal was to hit 30, so we're going to continue to see that go up this year.
I just have an observation. The North Mason High School, we had a small dip, but you guys came back and not even like achieved higher than 23-24, but higher than 22-23. And so I think, you know, you, your staff, the students, their families should be commended on that, because it's not just trying to go back to where we were, but exceeding that. That's a big jump.
I'd like to give a shout out to that to Kyle and Chris. They helped us brainstorm and look at a new testing model that we did this year. As opposed to, hey, you need to go down to the library and test. Right. And
the kids really bought in, made it, you know, and everybody likes a little competition. So hey, we gotta, these numbers are gonna be posted. We gotta show out. Let's go.
And scores were coming in. Scores were coming in, and they were coming down to Steve and saying, hey, I heard my score might be in. They would go into Steve's office and he'd pull their score. You got a level 4. They were stoked.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
And we'll look on ways to keep growing at this.
Good job, guys. Thank you.
All right, James Taylor.
Start off looking at graduation rates. Last year was just above 48%. I know that's, you know, in comparison to the Washington State average, that looks low, but for the Washington State average, that includes all comprehensive high schools as well as ALE schools. And so those numbers are actually really comparable to other ALE schools in the state. And it's worth noting that a lot of our students that come in are credit deficient and not on track to graduate. And so being able to turn that paradigm around and re-engage them in school and get them to graduate is actually a huge celebration, even though there is room for growth in those numbers. For HomeLink, higher graduation rates, between 75 and 90% the last few years. A lot of the students that enter our HomeLink program are usually on track for graduation, and they've shown that they are strong independent learners, and with good teacher support, they're able to maintain that success and graduate on time. Other thing I forgot to mention, sorry about this, Kyle, you don't have to go back, but for James Taylor is that we do have a lot of students that continue to stay with us for a 5th year and do end up earning their diploma, which isn't reflected in that 4-year cohort rate, but it is a huge celebration for our kids that they persevered and got their diploma. Our academic goals. First one is our mastery-based learning. So students that take an MBLC course are showing success by demonstrating mastery of the various competencies that make up the course and participating in the project-based learning assessments and demonstrating that mastery. Second one is our Edmentum course completion rate. Edmentum is our online learning platform, and that still makes up a large bulk of our course offerings for our students. And so the goal there is that students are finishing their Edmentum courses within the term and that they are earning credits while they're taking those courses and being successful. And then the last one is increasing our graduation rates and our graduation ready, making sure that students are accomplishing credit milestones and getting back on track to graduate. For our action planning, our biggest one right now is implementing the project-based aligned curriculum in our MBLC courses. We have a handful of new courses that we're offering this year, and kind of the goal is to continue to grow those course offerings over the next few years, so that the project-based learning makes up the bulk of our curriculum for our James Taylor students. We see a lot of students that are engaging in these courses and are really starting to kind of rekindle that passion for learning. It's very hands-on, and we see a lot of kids come to life in those courses. Second one, strengthen teacher capacity through ongoing PD. So being part of the mastery-based learning cohort, we got a grant, and we're using a large chunk of that money to focus on teacher PD. And so right now, we're partnering with Schools Partnership. Our trainer is actually the same trainer, and we're focusing twice a month our PD on universal design for learning, developing a systemic approach to tracking students, and so meeting regularly as a graduation, and then making sure that we're having weekly one-on-one meetings with students to talk about their progress, to find out feedback cycles. And that's one part of giving students more autonomy and ownership over their own learning. And of course, what did you find challenging? What can we do to make adjustments more successfully for you? Any questions?
Is always a success, no matter if it's in the single digits, double digits, at the state average. Fact that it may look different somewhere else, but thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
And I would just add one thing is we have smaller numbers too, so sometimes if we've got one less, maybe we could have like the numbers just to help us understand that a little bit better too, because I think it might show us even better.
No, yeah, that's a great point,
So
yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Summary in general, you heard pretty much everything that's up here, so this we're really trying to align with our building needs and to really support our teachers and our admin and just all staff at each and every that we've already had some pieces happening this school year so far around AVID strategies. We have some continued math curriculum training. We're only in year 2 for our K-8 math adoption. So each building has already had some hours with consultants from both iReady and Desmos. Desmos for the middle school. We've already had some professional development there. We have a team, I believe they are starting tonight, that with WIDA training to support MLL students. And it's really nice because the national conference this year is in Seattle. It's really unfortunate that it happens to be during our elementary conference week when it's essential for our elementary staff to be there. So it's unfortunate that we weren't able to send our elementary staff, but we were able to get some secondary people to that training. You heard from especially our elementary, but also within our secondary too, around common formative assessments to really drive that instruction. We have some professional development next month happening around CFAs. And then PLC development. So district principal team, we have some support from Solution Tree to be able to help us really kind of align ourselves from district principal and staff member level for our PLC development. SD theory of action, but really nobody besides me put anything standards, targeted interventions based on iReady and FastBridge, and professional learning for educators and data-driven instruction. You probably heard quite a bit of that throughout the presentations today. Our immediate outcomes, we'd see the stretch growth and aggressive growth on both iReady and FastBridge, increase student confidence and engagement in critical thinking and application of learning. That would be this school year, and then from the end of the school year and beyond, increase student achievement on smarter balanced assessments, narrowing of achievement gaps across student groups, and strengthen system-wide accountability for student success. So really, this is what we should be seeing, that we would expect to see if we put all those inputs in place. Big shout out to our teachers. They're working really hard. I also want to acknowledge October, I was gonna say principal leaders as well. Any questions?
I don't know if this is for you or
free-for-all,
Mhm.
right? And so when somebody is free-for-all,
Mhm.
right? And so when somebody is struggling at the comprehensive, and then the program works with them because they could take a class at the high school if that, because our alternative programs are really loaded and there's minimal space, is to be in HomeLink and take a band, and HomeLink to take, you know, one of their, what is it?
whether it's competency-based learning, which I don't even know if we have a policy to award competency-based credit. You know, we've got a comprehensive high school, an alternative high school. We have, I gotta get outside the box of meeting our students' needs.
Our principals are doing a fantastic job of trying to make our boxes bigger and give kids as many options and possibilities as we can. We just want to do it big. It's like
Right.
really organized. Leave our system prepared to be successful.
And Kyle, I think my only other comment or question was, I think with the data-driven learning, you talk about this and, you know, hear from the admin so much. How much advance, like, you talked about the teacher conferences like this week for elementary. How much notice are these teachers share this with the parents to kind of celebrate successes and create a culture
Up and really kind of dive into their each and every kid's teachers has all that within like the toolbox of iReady and FastBridge that has, and I know that we send it out, our principals are sending well, so they kind of get the big picture from principal, and then they can really kind of hone in on their class with what they have access to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
But the only thing I was gonna say, as always, I really appreciate, I know how much goes into this. It was a few years ago that none of this was comprehensive between the schools. The fact that we're able now to flow through and we can all track the data and really look at that took for you guys to do. So thank you for putting that together.
Yeah. I agree.
Thanks.
We'll be back. are back.
That's in one of mine, yeah.
First day.
Your audience-
The important audience member is still here.
Rob.
Here have put in a long day already, so I'm just joking. The first month of the new fiscal year. And if you haven't already noticed, my deck. Hopefully it will make things clearer and easier to read and follow. So on this slide, we have an overview of the general fund budget for fiscal year 25-26. We have in our budget $42,690,662 in revenues, $42,382,955 in expenditures. We began our fiscal year balance of $2,690,695 and 25.6 beginning fund balance could change a little bit if you see a different number. Ending fund balance for this year is $2,378,298. Now, we will adjust our budget and those additional levy revenues. Okay, next slide. Year-to-date revenues through the month of September, $2,884,891. Year-to-date expenditures, $3,461,212. And our month-end fund balance of $2,100,000. I do want to remind you, though, that our apportionment is kind of sussed out in different percentages each year. We don't get 1/12 every month. So our apportionment was at 9% in September, plus OS working out some of the numbers based on our enrollment. And so we can't all of a sudden get too panicky about our revenues in 1 month being that much less. However, I also want to say, though, that we need to be cautious. Is less than our budget amount is high. And so we do need to be cautious, and we will be watching. Maybe you read in the newspaper recently that Shelton School District, because 22.5% of school districts apportionment comes in July and August throughout the school year, is to get an advancement of their July and August apportionment, better idea. And we would be looking at, if we were going to do an apportionment advancement, of the previous slide. And as we go through the year, you'll the big picture that way. It just shows our year-to-date revenues and expenditures in our current month-end fund balance. And when I say current, I mean through the previous month. Well, let's go to the next slide. So these are the fund balances for our other funds. The capital projects fund ended September with $152,294. The debt service, $189,360. And the transportation vehicle fund ended with $312,400. New depreciation allocation. And so we had recently just, stay tuned for more information on how we'll be using that fund. And in previous years, we focused here during our board meetings on our K-12 enrollment with Running Start, but not including TTK. And I think it's better to include our TTK in all of our enrollment all in one picture, so we don't get confused with the numbers we're talking about. So our budgeted enrollment includes ALE and includes Running Start for the fiscal year 25-26 is 2,331 students, and that's what our apportionment is based on right now. Our apportionment will be adjusted in January based on our actual, which is 58.86 students less than what we budgeted. So before, when I said we need to be looking at want to be upfront about this so that we don't have any kind of misunderstanding, thinking that everything is included them in the month of October. So you can see the counts for these different groups of students. Students are located. And those are, there's one more slide. It has a visual of the actual enrollment. And September is lower because we don't have the TTK and Running Start in there. Now the average, though, is not including September because it just throws the average off. So from September on through June, we'll see that average adjust as our enrollment is tallied up. And those are all the slides. Do we have any questions?
So the one
questions.
So the one,
and they made that up to us in July and August.
okay.
Yeah, I think.
What's TTK?
Oh, thank you. I'm online. TTK stands for Transition to Kindergarten. Pre-kindergarten class to provide students with pre-kindergarten class to provide students with students who are that shows that on the ones perform really well on the WAC.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything legislative that they've dealt? Okay, right.
Yeah.
On ER 13?
I move that we find this.
No, this is a shorter policy, it complying with all policies at the local, state, and city, whether it's at the Washington state level, federal of the board.
Okay. Any other discussion from anybody over here?
I didn't have anything.
Okay. All in favor of finding the about facilities, the policy from last month? There's no other public comment.
Okay, well, so good of the order, one of the things that Jessica referenced was their a clear vision and having the team of not only the admin, but also the team. Commend Rob Thomas. There's been a few times and taken personal measures to speak with, and I was able to witness some of those firsthand, not seen here for many, many, many years. So that
Without a water pump in there, because the power came back on and blew it up. Going through right now and keeping their kids on track, a difference in people's lives. And we're one of them. So I not seeing it, but also getting through it with their families, and it's really hard. And let them see it come back, and let them be part of it. So that's my shout outs to the families today. Yeah.
Well, one thing I was gonna say is what they put together there. It should be fun. Same thing. I'm gonna do the same really well. The fact that he's able to coordinate between the buses and the vans and the, so it was amazing just to be able to fit all that up to him. So other than that, that is all I have.
All the schools getting ready for parent-teacher conferences, and it's the thick of it. It's when everything is set up and everybody is good to go. So I agree. There's been a lot of really great school spirit and a lot of community involvement, and I just look forward to things continuing to go well this year. So yeah, thank you.
Good. All right, now we'll do the board self-assessment here. I've got that deal today. So going through the general behavior, I think we were satisfactory. Policy governance principle reviews, I think we had. Our next school board meeting will be held on the 24th of December to go over some of the policy stuff.
The conference, I think I've asked this 100 times, but